I've been riding this bike for almost a year, so this is a long-ish term review of the Clean X3 26-inch trials bike. First, I'll just go through the bike. I made some changes from the stock model. I had to modify a few things to make it rideable for me. I've set this bike up pretty aggressive with a low handlebar height. It's the TrialTech 120mm stem with the clean carbon bars. Any longer than this and I can't swap from front wheel to back wheel. I'm a short guy. The clean brakes kept leaking on me, so I put a SRAM code up front with a 180mm rotor. That thing works amazing. I can go down steep rocks and modulate the front brake, and it just feels way better. The fork had to be swapped out so that I could run a front disc. The Crew Curse wall fork is the only competition trials fork that is available in a disc brake version as far as I know. And yes, everybody's gonna tell me, how can you ride that? It's so flexy. It is flexy, but the advantages of modulation for me are just so great. I can deal with a little bit of flex while doing static hooks, and I can still do static hooks on this. It's not a deal breaker. Stans Flow disc front rim. I didn't want to run a trials single wall front rim with a disc brake. I wanted that wheel to be strong and stiff because of the torque coming through the spokes. So I went with a disc specific rim, and it's pretty similar in weight, maybe a little heavier, but I do believe it helps with that flex. On the rear, I went with the Racing Line. Quick tip, with the Racing Line brakes, make sure you put Loctite on the nut and bolt that attaches the lever to the lever body, because those come loose and you lose them. I went from Coost pads to the TNN Beely pads. The TNNs are a little quieter, and I find that they bite better on a dull grind. The Coosts, you really had to keep grinding your rim, and you wanted that super loud bite. The TNNs just work longer, so less maintenance, I'm happy. On the rear brake, I added a carbon brake booster. That made a difference. Clean rims, how are they doing? They feel super noodly, not gonna lie. The rear one did flat spot on a couple drops that I did. I am excited to try the TrialTech Carthy rim though. I do have it, I'm just waiting to destroy this one, but it's been a year and I can't destroy it. The tires are getting super bald, but I'm still riding them. I only got a couple flats all year. I'm pretty stoked on those. Just over 20 PSI, both front and rear. No issues with the clean freewheel or the cranks. Seems like a nice stiff setup. I would be curious to try a 165mm crank length though, instead of the 170s that came on it. I am transferring all my bikes over to 165. The bash guard that comes on the Clean, if you are a newer rider and you're a little bashy, get a few of those because they bend really easily. I've already had to bend this one back a few times. I do have a spare, haven't had to use it yet, but that time is coming. Cage pedals suck. I went with platforms. The Deity T-Max, they're the only pedal I ride right now. I put Deity grips on the bike. That company makes the best grips that I have ever used. Having a nice cushy lock-on grip allows me to use the grip to maneuver the bike. I think it's a big advantage. It is easier on the hands and it provides more stability. One of the modifications I did is I added a down tube guard. This thing is essential. I didn't even fall onto the down tube hard. I just kind of let go of the bike and it hit a rock and there were dents in the down tube. So the Clean is super light, super responsive, stiff, but it does dent. So I would recommend running a frame guard. This one's just PVC pipe. I know it doesn't look that great, but it does the job. Another personal touch is a watch on the handlebar. I do like doing sections and getting a good workout with a 2-minute time limit, similar to the World Cups out there. And I don't know, it's just nice to imagine that you're at a UCI World Cup competing. How does it ride? Hooks are amazing, super easy. The high bottom bracket makes things just float. Taps suck, but Nobody does those these days, right? You can go higher up to front wheel than most people could ever tap back in the day. And when you can tap, you can usually hook. So it's kind of an outdated technique, but I do miss those gaps. It flies, side hops. I've gotten personal records on this. That speaks purely to the style of the bike, the weight of the bike. Stability on two wheels, terrible. But once it gets back onto the rear, it works well. Ups to front, I never really worked that technique back when I competed in trials, but this bike has made me fall in love with that technique. It works so well, especially with the bars long and low out front. You stick that front tire on something and the rear just pivots right up. I do still feel clumsy. I think that's the best way to put it. Sometimes I go over the bars or I fall in a place that I just would never have fallen on in the past. And it's usually on two-wheel moves. Because you're so far over the front wheel, you can hit a pebble and go over the bars. Did my style get better on this bike? I would say no. Did my competition riding improve? Yes. It's the new trials geometry. You're gonna lose taps, but you're gonna gain so much more. This bike definitely helped me fall in love with trials again. I am riding it as much as any of my bikes right now. And I am super stoked to be back into the competition, natural trials community on YouTube, and hopefully there will be many more videos to come. I'll see you next time.